check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What is going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay, on NCAA Thursday, my favorite day of the year.
Happy March Madness Day to all of our basketball fans out there, and maybe even some madness in the markets. Hopefully not, right? Hopefully, if it was madness, it was good madness for your accounts. But welcome to At the Buzzer. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. Fitting name for the season that we're in right now in March. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that we have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay, been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, perhaps wisdom, and maybe help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that. And you are all our audience. Thank you, as always, every day for joining us when the markets are closed and we just want to talk about what happened. Let's take a look at the Trader Hub really quick to see if there was any news. Nike just did report its earnings for estimated at 50. It looks like they did 54 cents earnings per share. I probably contributed to that because I bought a couple pair of those. Coach Paul is back. Let's get him back in here. How do I do that? Here we go. All right, we got Coach Paul back. Give me 1 second, Coach. I'm bringing you in now. Should be bringing you in now. Little technical difficulties. Bear with us for a second. Copy link. Coach, if you can hear me, if you want to try leaving and coming back into the room. All right. We'll figure out Coach Paul in a bit. But as far as news goes, we did have some planned numbers out today. Of course, today is Thursday, so we had the jobless claims number come out. 223,000. Forecast was 224,000. Ton of numbers out. Philly Fed Business Index. Existing home sales came in at 4.26 million. When the forecast was 3.95 million. The market did like that number and did kind of spike off of that number as well. Of course, we had the president signing some executive orders, one of those to disband the Board of Education, which is interesting. Yeah, I think more than a news-focused day, today was just a really good day in the markets. And I think we got Coach Paul back. Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I was lost in the ether sphere. I felt like a stranded astronaut there for a second. Good to be back.
We brought you back home. Anything you got on the news front, Coach? We did have some planned numbers out today. Not too much as far as unplanned headlines, but anything you see on the news?
Other than that, the interest rates across the world, central banks are keeping them unchanged, showing some stability. Other than that, no, nothing much on the news front here.
Awesome stuff. So let's just get right into the charts. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to work on rebuilding the quote board tomorrow. I was focused on executing trades today, so we do not have the quote board again. Let's look at our top 4, our big 4, though, and we'll comment on those. We had the NASDAQ today down 0.23%. We had the S&P down 0.21%. Let's add a couple more symbols in here. We had
Crude.
gold up 0.38%, and let's see what crude oil did. Crude oil up 2.06% for our biggest percentage mover in our big four. All right. Are you guys seeing a lag at all? Is the video fine? I'm seeing a little bit of
Yeah,
lag on my side.
looks good here.
All right, cool. We'll keep it going. I don't know what this is. Give me one
I'm
second, guys. I'm
going.
sorry. I don't know what's going on over here. Too many things running at one time. All right, Andrew said a little bit of lag, refreshing helps. Okay, it should be good. OBS is good now. Had to close down a couple programs. All right. I got a NASDAQ chart up here, coach. Let's look at a 30-minute on the NASDAQ. It was an interesting day in the markets. We know we had the Fed rate decision yesterday, and, pretty much came in line with expectations. No change to rates. And I think we were talking yesterday about, do we then continue the rally that we had into the close of the day? But we got the exact opposite of that, right? Pretty much just a big range bound day in the equities. Pulling up your moving averages, coach, we have the 20, the 50, and the 200.
You got to bring me. I can't see the chart right now.
All right, give me 1 second. I'll share it back with you. All right, there we go. Now you should have them.
All right. Yeah. There was a big move out of London last night. It was funny. We look at last night's structure. We had a rally into London. Nice trade there. Short term 2-to-1. As soon as London came in, we found sellers right back to the value from yesterday where it took off. But what I noticed is we had almost in a condensed form on today's session, the day session, rally, hard break, back to is at the base of that rally yesterday. So we found value here, and this market is going sideways violently. But after the break we've had, it could be expected. There's imagine dropping a ball from the top of a roof. It's going to make a big bounce and then a smaller bounce, find balance,
Yep.
and maybe change course. And that's what I believe. Something like that is happening here. I found it very interesting. That was almost the same move.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's like a mirror image there, right? We're trading in the same range. It's this 300-point range between 20,100 and 19,750. It's a really nice range to trade, though. We got a comment from Alan saying the overnight sell-off was driven by surprise rate cuts by Swiss Bank. I didn't see that, but that makes a ton of sense for the volume that we saw late or early this morning. And a surprise rate cut by anyone, it could bring some volatility and some volume. So that makes a ton of sense. Alan, thank you for sharing that. But from a technical perspective, we got up to a level where we had a spike yesterday. This 20,100 level, just a major level that we did not see any buying above at all. If we have last night's open, this red line is that anchored VWAP. Volume at some point left this range and could not continue higher. Right, just seeing this anchored VWAP kind of stop before a major level is a huge sign that any price action up here is kind of empty, regardless of what the catalyst might be. Right, it could be, a surprise rate cut by the Swiss bank. It could be anything from the president, whatever it is, the volume showed that it was not interested in buying any prices higher, and sold off pretty strong last night. If anyone was trading during the London session, I know Coach Robert and Deanna were on together this morning, but a really nice sell off. And then that brings us to our New York session open. Um,
Right back up.
Literally right back up. It's a mirror
Up
image
elevator, down elevator.
a mirror image of the move. I think what's really interesting coming into this New York session open was this highest volume candle from that London session sell off. We open up, we trade right below 50% of it. And if we look at that as a range, this VWAP leaves this range. Buyers coming in as soon as the New York session opens for a really nice rally. D says they did a copper trade. Okay, we'll take a look at copper as well. But from the New York session open, Coach, it was buy it early
Yeah,
and
it
often.
was there was urgency, and that's what I'm saying. It's like fragmented. The long-term buyers, institutions are buying discount prices on the opening, and I think basically they create an imbalance that gets traded out and right back to where it started. We've seen this a couple days in a row now with it. Um, the highest volume and urgency.
Yep,
Um, that gets worked out. So
and it continues.
we're
Uh,
still under the 200 moving day moving average on the daily. Still that shape that we were talking from 2022. Um, Coming into a weekend, is there a big news event tomorrow?
is there big news tomorrow? Does not look like it. We got Canadian retail sales, but outside of that, no major news. We got a Fed speaker. Nope, I think we got the big news for the week out of the way. We do have monthly options expiration, so it is triple witching day
Mm,
tomorrow, which is going is always an interesting day. Uh, where we see some consolidations a lot of times. We see some whippy price action in the equities, but nothing as far as a number coming out.
yeah, a lot of gamma. This almost looks like gamma plays.
Yeah,
Those in a very tired illiquid market is what I would say. Um, but that we still are in the range of that candle, the big candle, down candle from last week. Um, let's mark that high. That's yeah.
high of the candle is 20,370. We're trading right at 50% of it right now, 19,904.
All right. Um, there's a trend line from the highs that we've broken, which is a steep trend line. Um, so my looking into tomorrow, unless some unforeseen event comes, I think we're going to stay much in the same pattern as we saw yesterday and today. So with
Agreed.
that, as a trader, be very disciplined. Only trade a setup that you've designed. Um, uh, uh, my experience working with traders, today's a day that people can get really whipsawed. And by the way, whipsaw days are common losing days, um, because it's random action. Um, and how many days in a row we've been? This is like all week.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of indecisive candles here, kind of similar to what we saw at the highs, right? If we're looking at the daily candles, this is kind of a doji. Maybe we start to see some indecision before another rally to the upside. The market is definitely basing in this area here, and we can see it when the market bases on a higher time frame for a little while. These markets are not going to stay in the same place for very long. So a move is coming out of this range potentially. We don't know which side. Maybe to the upside, if I had to lean one way, but the market is going to let us know. On a shorter time frame, I do want to point something out here on the upside. We had, again, this 20,100 level. Shout out to Tony and Dakota today taking shorts in a market that was up 300 points from the open. And a lot of times, it's like, why the hell are they shorting there? This doesn't make any sense. But I thought this was a really great trade. Hoag called it out as well. We have and you hear Hoag talk about the initial balance, which is the first hour of trade, the range for the first hour of trade. The initial balance high today in the NASDAQ was 20,087.5. Initial balance low was the opening range low, 19,756. We talk a lot about volume here, and some of these big reversals come at whole number levels, right? We had 20,100 at this high today, and look at where average volume was, right? VWAP is down here from the New York session, and price is trading 130 points higher than it, or 3 ATRs on this 3-minute chart. So we're extending in a range bound market, and it's an opportunity to take a short there. But we've also seen markets like this just continue to rally and make new highs, right? Take out the FOMC high. When there's no volume to do it, there's a higher likelihood of falling back into this range. And I know what Hoag was looking for was if we fail back into the initial balance, again, 20,087.5 was the initial balance high. The target would be the other side of the initial balance, which we almost got. And if you watch fast markets, you'll hear Hoag mention it. He mentions it all the time. The failed upside auction is exactly what we had here today. It's not something that plays out 100% of the time, right? Sometimes we see this move fail and we continue to rally up. But in order for us to buy above this level, we were going to need to see some buying coach, and they were just not there.
Well, they had already bought it. So there was no follow through, and like you said, we were 3 ATRs away from the volume or VWAP. Also, that's a major level, right?
Yep.
And we're still in a downdraft. So I think that's why I think we'll still see more of this action tomorrow. Coach, you
Yep.
still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
There's just some weird stuff going on over here, but
You
I'm
got
here.
gremlins.
Yeah, they just tell them to leave me alone. All right. They were saying the audio was out of sync, so I just had to change the frame rate on my camera. All right, we're good.
So, and that S&Ps, NASDAQ were very much the same. Then NASDAQ just seems a lot weaker to me.
Makes sense. Tesla's getting beat up every day. Nvidia hasn't been having a great time either. I think a lot of the Mag 7 is just trying to figure out what's going on and where some buyers are. I know Apple had some news about changing their head of AI, which led to
Yeah.
some selling in Apple as well. To the downside, there were a ton of nice trades. Looking at the S&P, that's where most of my trades came from today. Did anyone? And I think there was a comment about the this kind of spike of volume at 11:03 Central Time on the 3-minute chart. The profits that I made on this account today came from this move. I was flat at this point, kind of just watching Topstep TV and just listening to the markets in the background. And then you hear, oh, what was that? Right. And you see a spike of volume. And usually, especially during that time, when we're still kind of in fast markets, maybe going into the close, we had this spike here, and immediately I do the same thing I do with every kind of high volume spike, attach a VWAP to it. It left the range. This is just a nice opportunity to take a short and try to ride the trade to the downside. Every high volume spike that we get, I think I only took 15 points out of this trade, but just gives us another opportunity to do the same thing. And then the last trade I remember taking was with uh, during Back to the Futures, where we were shorting again off of this high volume here, right? So anytime the market came back up to this range, and that's why I like to visually kind of put the targets on there. Anytime it came back up here, just giving an opportunity to short. The trade we took was actually in the NASDAQ, but similar concept here. Anything else you have on the equities, Coach?
No, I'm equity out.
All right. Um, Thomas Teal says, Coach, how do you get into the VIP training program? There's going to be more opportunities next month. Right now, the VIPs are closed. Each session with VIPs is going to be 3 months, and we're about a month and a half in with this current group right now. So next month, you'll hear it on Topstep TV exactly what we need to do to get into that program, and we would go from there. Design it says, what do you take from the big volume on the end, or is that just the close? So this is just the close. Let's look at it from yesterday, right? The closing, opening and closing is usually going to be the highest volume of the day. Let me see if I can refresh my charts to bring this back up. Uh-oh. Come on, Top Step X. There we go. The open and close is always going to be the highest volume, right? So let's map out this highest volume range right here.
And one other thing, when you're measuring the closing volume, it's not going to give you much anything on directions to close. So it's
Right.
evening up.
Yep.
If you noticed on that big closing volume, was an average to smaller than average candle.
Yep. Yeah. So ton of volume being contracted in a very small range, and it's usually always like that.
Yeah, for a reason. I mean, it's evening up. Buyers and sellers, a lot of day trading, um, position evening up. But that's why we focus on the opening more than the close.
100%. What the opening will give, I mean, what that closing volume will give you is where settlement is, right? If we look at it in the NASDAQ, settlement was 19,951, which is right in the middle of that range, right? So what you can expect, or not expect, but maybe use as a profit target potentially in your trades, right? That 19,951 was, I always look at it as the line in the sand of, are we going to be green or red for the day, right? And when we see the price action at it, if I see volume at settlement, and in this case, we had increasing volume at settlement on the way up, this just, the way I put it in my head is buyers are trying to push the NASDAQ to be green today, right, over that settlement line. So stop could go below where they decided to actually push. Sometimes you're going to see the market come up to it and there's no volume. They don't care about a green day today. That's the way I'm reading it. Just to keep it simple. But let's move on to another market here. Let's go over to gold. Gold made a new all-time high in the overnight session. High in gold 30,065.2, and market at all-time high is not an easy trade, Coach.
Gold hasn't been golden for my type of trading. And that daily candle was a selling candle. And basically we were unchanged. Nice break there. I think tomorrow is a day I'm going to keep my eye on that. I find that is probably a good place to find a place to buy early tonight. But look at that. Attach. Where do we make that high? So we made it once, twice. We can start putting on, anchoring VWAP to those highs to see when, and frame them out to see when they fail. And that was there's the one.
Yep, I know Coach Hoop was short while we were doing slow markets
Yeah.
last night. Coach Hoop got short from 30,064. I don't know what he was looking at, but he saw something that I think he set the price. Coach Hoop said, "That's
Nice
enough.
trade.
That's enough. We're I've seen enough. I'm selling it." And he was right. Uh,
Oh, Coach Hoop, did you call that your golden calf trade, Mr. Cattle?
but beautiful trade there up at that level. We see the exhaustion from buyers is really not any convinced buying up at these levels from the open. VWAP never left that 30-minute opening range to the upside. Well, it peaked above it, but that's not convincing at all. Whatever it was that Coach Hoop saw, really nice short, kind of back down into the range. Two-sided trade today. It did present some opportunities to the upside as well, but it's making new all-time highs, and I think it's just a very difficult trade unless we get a flush out of some of these longs and then continue higher. Um, I was short at the same price. I used the 1 hour CFD resistance level. Very nice. And then yeah, so GDL, great point. So in the morning, the team on the opening call, we know they like to take those opening range trades all the time. So really nice opening range trade that they took this morning, 8:20 Eastern time, 7:20 Central, which is right here. So if you know the way that opening range trade works, they are looking to, which is surprising that they were, oh no, the long came first. All right, so 1 minute opening range established. The market breaks to the upside first, so they're in long here. Something I think the team has been doing really well is extending that stop out a little bit, where normally it was a tick or two on the other side. Uh, the uh, the bad guy out there, the one that's hunting stops, knows that everybody's putting their stops out there. So top step traders are a little bit smarter, and we extend the stops a little bit just to avoid this stop out. So shout out to Hoag making that adjustment. And then a really nice trade, right? We got 5 points to the upside. And shout out to Coach Hoop again, calling out, hey, we're at overnight VWAP. This market's been selling off. Maybe take the trade off from there. And to the tick, we trade that VWAP and sell off. Maybe a nice reversal challenge opportunity to just flip and go short, but getting out of that long trade, really nice win there. Anything else you're seeing in gold, Coach?
Um, no, I don't want to overanalyze it. So, you know what? Let's go on to crude. There was a nice trade today.
Yeah, it was. Here's Crude on a 30-minute. What are we seeing here, Coach?
Well, actually, you can almost take the moving averages out and just go on a price basis. As we've been saying, it's in a range.
Yep.
We were at the bottom of the range. We went early last time. We sold it overnight and was interesting because it made new lows. It looked like it was going to go down hard. So if we go to the US Open, start with a 5-minute or 3-minute chart. And a head fake, right? It left the range. Now we'll talk about a proper risk management. You have a good reason to get short that. I don't 1-to-1 risk reward on an ATR basis, maybe 2, but look at a classic selling exhaustion, and that saved me. I
Were you short?
I have been long from overnight
Oh, you
on
were
some
long. Okay.
actually calls. But when
Okay.
I saw that and it broke that high, I bought futures like with it. I did not expect that kind of a rip. But
Sometimes when you're good, you get lucky.
when you notice this is a classic J trade or exhausted selling.
Yep.
It's really interesting. Just think of the why this happens. And this was a classic because it made lows of the day.
right? So we have large volume making lows of the day, whatever that was. We could say, oh, it was stops, it was producer selling, news, all of that is tagged under selling. Those were sellers. They made new lows on big volume. When can we define a place where that selling is either failed or stopped? Well, high volume and then break over the candle. That created that. And let's just tick slowly forward. This is now right there. Look at it. There's the highest volume of the day,
At that
and
point.
it's buying. I would say that's almost stop buying.
Yep.
Question, whatever. I don't like to put any because it's we really don't know, but we do know it's buying. And that was with urgency. Look at how much it moved the VWAP. It took it
Yeah.
from the bottom of the range to the top of the range in how many minutes?
3 minutes. It's a 3 minute chart. So, question here. We see this exhaustion at this low, and we're saying, okay, high volume at this low, potential reversal signal. Maybe you buy it at the high of this, the range when we close out. We've talked about the potential to, buy it somewhere in this candle, but you're buying it here at Coach at this high. Then you see this volume spike. What is your mindset at this point where we don't know what that next candle is going to be?
Calm down, don't start over trading. My my other one is I would add a double up. I would have had a huge day, but that's assuming that I know where it's going to go a dollar and a half higher. I don't.
Is there any point where you say, hey, that was higher volume than this last one? Should I consider that this may be another reversal?
Um, no, because we it didn't. Wow, great question. The first volume, the high volume on the low, made lows of the day.
Yep.
That is a little different than this is like that. I think that volume just it added heat. Um, so just taking, and like I said, I don't like to tag too much. It was a good buying, bad. It's just buying. And those buyers look at the range it took to buy. Um, no, in hindsight, boy, I could have added to that. Yeah, you know what? I was already long, so
Yeah.
I did add to it. And I usually don't add. It was a wasn't a it was a small loser, but I at the low that J trade was at the low of the day. Okay, if I'm wrong, I really we talk about this. I don't add too much to my risk.
Right.
So if that was a 2-to-1 trade. The average true range it was worth about 65 cents.
Nice trade. Yeah, I think
And
my
boy, we're
mindset
still making highs as we
my
speak.
my mindset for this would be just read the volume, right? The question I ask anytime I see a high volume spike like that is it sustainable, right? The thing I'm always going to do is attach a VWAP to it, and we can see it before that next candle prints. This VWAP is kind of leaning towards the upside. So is that volume sustainable bar by bar? And it is, right? If we look at the range in the next 3 minutes, that volume looks like it wants to leave. Like you said, coach, maybe an opportunity to add or take the trade. If we could look at this just same way we look at the opening range trade, right? If I wasn't already in long, this is now saying that yeah, there's some potential to continue to the upside. We obviously know what happened here, but if you're just looking at this structure, uh, sustainable. So now I would look at this one and say, oh well, is that the potential for the reversal? Because now that's the highest volume that we had for the day. It's just a really nice trade. This one's a little
It
different.
can happen in the crude.
Yep. Yeah, really nice trade. Nice trade, coach. Good job, flipping right away and just saying getting long, because that happened very quick.
And we were talking, you've been talking when you were looking, looking to buy crude. We're saying we're in the bottom of that range.
Yep.
By the way, this was pure volume. That was so let's go to look at the daily and see where
Sorry about coughing into the microphone. Go ahead, Coach. Here's the daily.
didn't hear you.
The 20 moving average.
We were talking, now we closed above it.
Yep, we're going
with
to 70.
some momentum.
Not financial advice.
Boy, that kind of looks, does that look like the S&Ps? I didn't notice that before.
Kind of.
Same kind of structure.
Yep. Yeah, above that 20 moving average. I've been talking about wanting to buy gold. Sorry, this is crude oil. Wanting to buy crude.
Black gold.
I'm looking to the long side on crude.
Yeah. And look at now. Well, let's look at from this point of view. That's a wick that was caused by heavy volume failing at the bottom. So whatever that selling was, whoever it was, but we're closed above the 20 for the first time in a couple weeks. But we have a new day tomorrow.
Doesn't mean what it brings.
But that was to me, that was the most well-defined trade of the day.
Short Life Hacks talking about some trading news. Kraken, from what I can remember, Kraken is a crypto platform purchasing Ninja Trader. It's big news. That is big news.
For $1.5 billion, wasn't it?
It's a couple dollars there. It's a couple dollars. All right. Any other markets that we want to talk about, Coach? Any other markets that you have?
Micro Bitcoin. Speaking of Kraken.
You did have a question here. When did you exit this crude oil trade? What is your out on this crude oil trade?
2 ATRs on that. Actually, on the 3 minute. I think it was 60 cents. I'd have to look up.
Okay.
Now,
nice trade.
Yeah, I think it was. There it is. 67.53.
67.53. Nice out. Yeah, I really like that out. We were just framing out all those candles, right? And this one was the high of the day at that point. VWAP started to flatten out.
Yeah. I was just trade. It was a 2 to 1. It was 2 to 1 risk reward. I'm out.
Yeah. Nice trade, Coach.
And so let's look at Bitcoin. That was a nice trade today.
Micro Bitcoin.
And micro bit stock. It's very much like we talked about. It's like a stock now. Put on the two. Start with the half hour or the daily. Let's start with the daily.
All right. I'm just gonna go off camera for a second, but I got you, Coach. I'm still here.
All right. So we've been bouncing along the 200-day moving average. Every day we've been touching it, rallying off of it, touching it, rallying off. Today on the half hour, we got under the half hour for the first time in a couple days, and immediately we held that low and rallied right back up for a nice trade. For me, setting up, this looks like it's got a chance to rally. Went up to the 20-day moving average or 20-bar moving average on the half hour, but it's holding this 200-day moving average. Selling has not surfaced. So the hodlers are holding like they should, I think it's got a shot at a nice rally to the upside. It's been tested now for 4 or 5 days in a row. There's, but if you've read Reminiscences of Stock Operator, it's a great quote from there. He who sells what isn't his'n buys it back or goes to prison. Those rules might not apply in today's world, but sellers keep selling it down there and they're not getting anywhere. So I like it as a cheap attempt to buy it. If these shorts come into cover, we could just rip higher quickly, kind of like that crude trade. So Bitcoin, I think, is a great opportunity tomorrow.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, chat. Any questions that you have? Any other markets that you want us to discuss? Let's take a look at copper. Dee said that she had a nice copper trade last night, or this morning, depending on where you are in the world.
It's all relative.
It's all relative. Copper's been trading above $5 on a interesting
On a
candle there on
tear.
the daily. It's an interesting daily candle there at a level that near a spot where copper has turned around recently. But looking at it on a 30-minute, here's last night's Globex open. And remember, traders, there's a bunch of different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. So if you're struggling in the equities, maybe consider trading something else. But here's copper. Let's look at it from maybe after the time D is coming on. Here's the London session open there. And we talk about our friends in London having all the fun. D is one of them. Copper was just a really nice sell from that London open. I'm assuming that's the trade that she was in, but
D, did you sell?
it starts to move around 6 a.m. Central, but it moves well during London and COMEX. Yep, she was in a short.
Yeah.
Nice trade here in copper. Does anyone know the tick? I mean, does anyone? D knows. What's the tick value of copper?
32 or 32 and a half. No, that's bonds. 60. It's a weird number. $62.50.
Interesting. 12 and a half a tick. There you go.
Right.
All right. Really nice trade here on this short from the open. We can see where the volume started to step in here. The market respecting that volume for the rest of the day. Every time we came back up to this range, it sold off. Sometimes I get the question, why don't I just use volume profile? And it's similar, right? If we use the profile here, we get this kind of volume area up here. For me, it's like, which one of these lines do I pick? At the, I'm serious.
I have to laugh at that. Well,
So-
pick one of them and manage your risk.
So here, if we go with the developing volume profile as it's going, if we go with the developing volume profile as it's going, from the time this volume came in, this was our point of control, and we sold from there. Just giving a different perspective, for me, it's a lot easier to see an anomaly from volume by time, but that's all preference. Whatever you trade, continue to trade it.
Trade your plan and plan your trade.
All right. So any other markets? There is micro copper as well that you can trade. Any other markets that you guys have? We talked about corn yesterday. I actually did place a corn trade today just because we talked about it yesterday, and I said I wasn't going to let it go without taking it. I took the opening range trade in corn.
1 minute.
The 1 minute opening range. I got stopped out.
And you live to talk about it.
Yep. So we had the 1 minute opening range here. I took the short because this was our first break of it. And I got stopped out on the other side of it. Wasn't the biggest trade. I think it was like $112. And that was it.
It was a big move. to the upside. Let's look at the daily. We're holding that 200-day moving average. We've had this big break coming into it. Maybe soon we'll see a headline that tariffs have been rescinded. Oh, what's that yellow? So kind of right up, I think, to the tick to the 20. So tomorrow it needs to. It's look at it. It's holding that 200 also. Well, yeah, all these markets have, in retrospect now, because we've been in the battle,
Yep.
they're all breaking off of tariff news.
Yeah, seriously, everything, right? This was same highs in every other market that we've been looking at.
Could you say these markets are tariff-eyed? I would say so. You heard it here first, folks.
I would say so. Yeah, so maybe we get a bunch of markets that rally if we, roll back some of the tariffs. We got a couple of other markets that we want to see here. We have Japan news tonight. Could we look at the yen? Richard Harris are my bar colors, my favorite team colors. They are not. I think being a fan of sports, honestly, I'm just a fan of.
The Bears?
No. Why would I
Oh,
say
it's
that?
blue and orange. That was Illinois.
I'm a fan of entertainment in sports and well executed playbooks, right? When like teams can I'm gonna basketball nerd out for a second, but if you watched the Lakers the first 5 games of the season, that's my favorite type of basketball to watch. They came in with a system, played the system. That system has been thrown out the window at this point, but that's what I like. Just good execution. So I'll be watching some college basketball for sure. But no, these colors are there because I don't like red and green. That's really it. Japanese yen we got here, Coach, on a daily. We're right at that daily 200 moving average, using it as a support for today. What are we seeing here? Apparently, we got some news out in Japan tonight. What are you seeing here from a technical perspective, Coach?
I'm seeing getting hit from both sides. It's trying to rally. It's had this big rally. What's interesting that if we blow it up a little bit, the 20 is over the 200. It's going, I think it's rallying with the burden of this great break for the last decade. I've been getting chopped up trying to buy it, so I just bought calls. It's got to go, though.
Yeah.
This market it's at a pivot point. I'm trading it to the upside, but man, it has not been easy. But see, we've been braiding around that 200. We're above it on the half hour. I just get the feeling when it goes, it's going to happen like in an hour. Like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, we're up 6%.
Yeah. So the trend line has been broken. The 200 we've been staying over it. But it rallies and then just dissipates, rallies and dissipates. Still going. So I've been donating to the cause. So I just ended up with that. I'm buying a call where I know that I have a known risk, and if it doesn't, it does. But if it does, I just have this feeling it's going to go vertical. It's spent too much time at this level. It's been rejected for the last 10 years on rallies like this. So I don't know what else to say, but I still think it's got big upside potential.
There we go. All right. And a market that from what I've learned from you, Coach Paul, kind of mirrors the Japanese yen. Saw somebody mention the 10-year yield as well. Can you tell which chart is actually, those are the same charts, so you can't. I tricked you. See,
I
chat, I
can.
got you. They're the same chart. Okay, there we go. One is the yen now, and one is the 10-year on a 30-minute. Let's look at it daily. They look very similar.
That's bit, yeah. And
So-
if you think about it, Japan owns a large portion of our debt, owns a lot of treasuries. And there's also talk of Japanese yen being a stable currency that could replace some dollar transactions. But that's all talk. Talk is cheap, but margin costs money. And right now, we're in an inflection point. I'm playing the upside. Same with the 10-year. Look, but speaking of 10-year, let's look at the bonds today.
Yep, we have the 10-year over here. We can look at the 30.
And let's look at the daily.
What is that white line up there?
Does it kind of look like the yen?
I mean, it's the same chart. It's the same chart.
So this is a financial play, but we've gone up to this 200 and just puked up. But look at this basing over a longer period of time. What is that, a weekly?
This is a 3-minute chart. I was just looking at the session open, right around 7:30 Central.
Yeah, look at that rally we had last night.
Yeah,
and we had this big rally yesterday. But it's hard, we're carrying a deficit. It's hard to keep rallying, but it's also at, I could talk Japanese yen 10-year bonds, 5-year. They're all about the same scope. Although if you trade bonds, it's a lot bigger contract. The average true range, I believe, is almost $1,000 versus the yen being like $600.
A little more affordable, especially for Topstep accounts.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We got a question here from Shubham. Shubham, how are you doing today? Can you and Coach Paul anticipate this type of short covering early? I got caught in the short today in the ES. It was sudden and a surprise. So can you anticipate the short covering? You can, kind of. We've been talking about these markets being under heavy sell pressure for the last 21 days, right? And we're starting to find a little bit of a basing pattern here. Can you anticipate it? Maybe, right? You say, hey, I could potentially be leaning to the long side in this. I think especially where I'm looking, if you're trading the New York session, right, and you said you got caught in a short, so you were short, I'm sure sometime in the New York session, look at what the overnight session said, right? If the overnight session is heavy short and we don't almost immediately get continuation, there's a high likelihood that we're going to reverse, right? If we look at just regular trading hours and we look at where we closed yesterday and we opened today, all right, this is a 0.7% gap down on the open. Now, it probably looks a little different on a 30-minute chart, so let's look at it on a 3-minute, right? So we can clearly see the open. Now, something I've seen a couple of times, I don't know the stats on it, so don't quote me on it, but just something I've seen is when we open up with a gap that is less than a percentage, there's a higher probability of filling that gap. And we're talking about regular trading hour gaps, right? So this is 0.7%. There's a higher probability of filling this gap. I don't know the stats on it. Anything we say here is for educational purposes only. And this is just what I've kind of witnessed over the past however many years of trading. So as soon as we open, I think, okay, do we gap and go, or is there potential for a continuation? From that point, it's reading the flow as soon as we open, and it looked like early on they wanted to, from reading that flow, they wanted to cover that position after being short overnight. Uh, but even if you were wrong on the trade, right? If you got caught in the short today, uh, and it was a manageable loss, that you saw something that was uh, part of your playbook. You took the trade and it stopped you out. What I think we have to try to avoid is saying that no, this should be a short, and then I'm continuing to sell it the entire way up before the market turns. What about you, Coach? How do you anticipate short covering? Um,
Well, well, I would just focus on creating a trading plan and executing that trading plan.
yep,
Short covering, um, I don't know if you can anticipate it, but like Coach Jay just said, you gap lower. Um, first of all, where did you get caught short? Early, like the first 3 minutes, first half an hour. And that's really important.
yep, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because
so
if maybe sometimes we need to give the market some time to give us more information. Is that what you're getting at, Coach? Right? Am I just
yeah,
short right off the open?
yeah, a little more info. And also, just what is I tell my traders, have a trading plan, 4 steps with risk management. Um, and then execute that strategy. In that strategy, I might say there's no trade here, or I can buy it, or I can sell it and frame out your risk. Um, that helps. But that helps define where you're willing to enter. Like getting caught in a short covering rally. Well, with a trading plan, you have a defined entry and an exit.
Yep.
Um, to me, I used to get caught in those without a plan. I really it was fuzzy on my exit. I just, when I was really young, was waiting for it to turn into a winner.
Seriously.
Did you have you ever been
Yeah.
in that?
Yeah.
If you've done
Yeah.
this, and
You
then
adding to it here, adding to it
yeah,
here.
then the moron trade.
Yeah, Shubham said, was short in the first 5 to 10 minutes or so.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe you had a setup that said take a short, right? Take the short, which is fine. Just manage the risk, right? Manage the risk, and then I think always remember. I try to be very cognizant myself of ever really having a bias. Uh, I've rewatched every segment that I've been on Topstep TV, especially early on, at least 3 to 4 times. Anytime I came in and said, "Oh, I'm looking to be a buyer or a seller," I was wrong the entire session. Because why does it matter what I think, right? What is the market telling me, and then assess what it's saying from there, and then going from there. And again, we have to have a hypothesis. We have to have an idea, but strong opinions loosely held says if the market disagrees with you and you still want to take that trade, you have to assess whether or not it makes sense to put risk behind it, um, and to hold on to that. And if it does, take the trade and manage your risk. We're not going to win every trade.
This is a great point you just made. Managing the risk is that's the trading plan.
Yep.
You could say, if you have your trading plan, part of that trading plan is, well, the first part is have a consistent reason to enter. If you enter, you have to have what? An exit. So if you sold it and it rallied, and that was part of a plan with a predefined risk, okay, it was a losing trade. Next. Yeah. where you're removing the emotion of having to be right and getting a sudden move against you. But if you have it planned and it's consistent where your plan over a large period of time has an edge, okay, that was the trade to take. That's why you keep hearing me saying have a consistent trading plan that you focus on executing the plan. It might have been to sell it. Okay, I sell it. I have a certain criteria for entering it. What's it going to cost? What is that? That's managing risk. What's my exit? That way, you have some consistency where you could have taken that sell, and for whatever reason that was in your plan, okay, this was a loser. Now I have to look for that same trade in a plan again. Or I get, like I said, when you get into real trouble is just entering it because I think on just a price basis, maybe a, a, a gut feel. So my answer is develop a consistent trading plan.
There we go. I think we could. We're at time. I do want to comment and shout out to Brad. We've been talking about how important news candles are, and we know FOMC was the biggest news of the week. This is that range, right? So think about take the charts off for a second. Think about the psychology of traders. We've been talking about on a higher time frame. This is a level that longer time frame participants might be coming in to buy. This was the area that after the rate decision, they were accumulating yesterday and pushed it up. So that overnight short took us right back to those prices. And those were buyers that were convinced enough, maybe some short covering or whatever it was, but convinced enough to buy in these prices. Is it a coincidence that this area is now holding? So again, think about the psychology of traders. In order for us to sell below this level, the buyers that came in here have to be okay with price going lower and not defending this price anymore, right? Either they say, hey, you know what, these markets are too heavy, I can't hold on anymore, and I want to short it, or maybe we're looking to continue accumulating a position lower and not stacking any bids here. If they continue to stack bids at these prices, and we can see it, the market continuing to respect here, we get bounces from that area. Coach, we got one more question before we go. Psalm 91 is saying, is Coach Paul still noticing a potential liquidity issue? I remember he spoke about it a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, when I see liquidity issue, it's being stretched. Is my immediate front of mind is that a volume in these 0-day options on big numbers is causing a stretching of the available liquidity that's from being in options for many years. I think that could be a problem. This volatility, by the way, market makers are there to make money. They're not there just to make them. They're there to make a market, but they too have to be careful of volatility on big numbers. It irritates me because I grew up in a trading pit where there was, they took those orders. They had to. But yeah, I still think there's a little bit of an issue on when it's not on demand like it used to be. Like all this hype for one number, I think is actually causing more of the volatility. It's like we saw with Coach Jay, and I think you bring in this example where the range was for the next day was done in 15 seconds off a number.
Right.
That's concerning. But I don't. That's why we encourage you not to trade in front of big numbers. There's plenty of liquidity after it. What is liquidity? Volume.
Yep.
Um,
Need market participants for markets to move. And when they move, right, we got to think we are all shorter time frame focused, especially here with Topstep. There's somebody here who's buying here for much higher potentially. Um, good stuff, Coach.
so, yeah, good question. But at the end of the day, is don't trade in front of big numbers. Trade after there's plenty of opportunity, and then there's plenty of liquidity, but
Yep,
not at the number.
for sure. We are at time there. We're going to wrap it. Coach Hoop does have a class coming up in Discord in the next 7 minutes, so make sure you show him some love over there if you haven't yet. For us here, thanks everyone for joining us as always. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends and family to join us as well. Hopefully, anything that we're doing here is helping you with your trading journey. We love to hear messages from traders that say, "Hey, you know what? Something I learned during At the Buzzer is helping me with my trading." I love seeing it in the Topstep TV chat during the day. Actually, um, if I'm having a shitty day trading, I see one of those messages and I'm like, "Yes, we're doing something good." So thank you, everyone. Coach, you got anything before we go?
um, nothing to add. You hit it right on the head. And we'll go at it, get at it tomorrow. And remember, plan your trade and trade your plan.
Awesome stuff. Coach Hoop coming up in Discord at 4:30 Central Time. Then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central, and then Dakota for slow markets at 7:30 Central tonight. Thanks everyone. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Andrew.